Let me just get YouTube going here, and then we will get started. All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome in. I am Stuart with Franklin Hill Ventures. Appreciate you stopping by my Monday morning live stream. I do this every Monday morning, just a chance to get together with friends, chat. Hey, welcome, Buckets of Crazy, Rose Ephemer. Thanks for the hearts already. It's good to get this kind of love already on a Monday morning. Um, had a really good weekend. Actually, did a couple of whatnot shows as part of Ephemera. I did my regularly scheduled show, and then we had one of the participants ended up getting sick, and so I had to jump in like literally with 15 minutes notice. But everything went well, and had a really good weekend with that. Hey, Rose Ephemera, thanks for coming in, and thanks for the kind words there. Uh, but yeah, I had a good weekend yard selling, which is the first time in a while. Thought I'd show a few of the things I found. Also, just got to thinking over the weekend, what are some things that I would like to see Whatnot implement? Thought we'd talk about that a little bit, see what everybody else thinks. And I tried to limit the list of things that are realistic, so not like the ability to do giveaways only for buyers because Whatnot's never going to do that because it's technically illegal. So I tried to limit it to things that I think anyway are realistic and reasonable. So, and also, as we talked last week, one of the things I've really been working on is not during when I talk, not saying not saying So, hey, if I do it, call me out because that's been my main things working on just public speaking in general. As I do more YouTube shows, I've started to do a podcast with a couple of other guys. So, that's one of my goals is to just, and I think I just said, that's one of my goals is to get more comfortable in front of the camera. I mean, I'm comfortable to get better in front of the camera, I guess is a better way to put it. So, anyway, I appreciate everybody stopping by this morning. So, tell you what, let's go through a couple of the things that I found on Friday because I thought I found some cool things. And if there's any interest in anything, let me know. I can tell you what it would take to start an auction on it. But in general, I'm not really looking to sell this stuff today. A lot of it will go to the booth or go to other online marketplaces or maybe to a future Whatnot show. But anyway, so these weren't any big deal, but I love Elvis and found some Elvis postcards. They were really inexpensive, so I picked them up. Those will most likely come to Whatnot at some point, either as catalog items. Look at that. He was so cool. And who remembers where they were when Elvis died? I was at Fontana Village in North Carolina. I was 10 years old, and we got the morning paper because they didn't have the 24-hour news cycle like they do now. And I can remember getting the paper at Fontana, and the headlines were about Elvis dying. I don't remember exactly what it said, but being 10 years old, that made an impression on me. Hey, welcome in Fire and Chat. JPH, Lizro 12, Lady Seal. A lot of names I recognize and then some I don't. So appreciate you coming by. Just for anybody who's not been in my Monday morning show before, I do this every morning, Monday morning. It's really as much for me as anything just to help me get my week kicked off on a positive note, just chat with friends, things of that nature. But I'm Stuart with Franklin Hill Ventures here in Knoxville, Tennessee. In addition to Whatnot, I have 3 antique booth locations here in Knoxville. I also sell on multiple other online platforms besides Whatnot. But Whatnot's my absolute favorite place to sell because of the social aspect. And speaking of my antique booths, here comes Gina, the manager at West End Antiques here in Knoxville. Good morning, Gina. Thanks for coming in. Always appreciate you stopping by. So, and if you weren't here at the very beginning, this morning I thought I'd talk about 5 things that I'd like to see Whatnot implement and 5 realistic things. So, these are things that I really think wouldn't be that difficult for Whatnot to do and would help, I think, all sellers. So, I'm curious to see what other people think. So, let me go through a few more of these things I found. I've actually found these before. Shirley Temple glass. I think I sold one on Whatnot one time. But the Cobalt Blue, they're from the 30s. I think they're Hazel Atlas is who makes these. And occasionally I do find these out. Found this at an estate sale. Well, it was an estate sale, but not run by an estate sale company, which is the best kind because they have good stuff, but it wasn't priced really, really, really high. So, and if you're joining me on YouTube, welcome in. I'll try to watch that chat as well. But if you are on YouTube, just click or scan the QR code. That'll bring you over here to Whatnot. Hey, George 0930, Female 911, Inbuilt 80. Anybody else I've missed? Now, one of my favorite things I found on Friday at yard sales was this. I think it's probably mid-century modern, but I believe they're teak. And it's this snack set. So you have potato chips, you have pretzels, and then you have peanuts. So everything you need for your next tailgate. So glad I found those. I'm sure I'll sell them. They'll probably go to the booth, one of the booths. Maybe they'll come to West End, Gina. I also bought, and this isn't something I would normally buy because they're probably long tail items, but I bought over 100 collectible spoons, if you could see off to my right over here. But there were a bunch of Disney ones in there, and I paid next to nothing for all these. So I looked up just the Disney ones, and pretty much the Disney ones I got will pay for all the spoons I got. So I'll end up probably lotting up the rest and selling, big lots of spoons, maybe group them by country or attraction or whatever. I don't know if anybody has any ideas on best way to sell those. If so, pop them in the chat and let me know. Then I've mentioned before that religion always sells. So I always pick up any of these kind of lithographs. This one's Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, probably from the 40s, if I would guess. But that one will also probably go to one of the booths. Hey, Crystal Hunter, Chadley Fresh, Psycho, Miko, thanks for coming in. Just going through a few of the things I found. Then here in a minute, we'll talk about my 5 things I'd like to see Whatnot implement. We'll do a giveaway at the end, then we rate somebody. That's kind of the format of the show every week. It's a quick 30-minute show. We can go a little longer if we need to today, depending on how things are going. I'm going to walk as soon as this is over, then got to go out to my booth in Clinton today. And really my plan is just to list a bunch of stuff today on other platforms. Always had good luck selling the bird guides. These are the ones, you see them in paperback a lot. I don't see it in hardback as much. Then I thought this was fun. I bought this. So these were in frames. So you have this Shirley Temple holding the Shirley Temple doll. And I thought that was really cool. And it was in a frame. And when I opened the frame, I actually had a picture of Lucille Ball behind it. So 2 pretty cool pictures. Those might be Whatnot things later on. Or they might go to the booth. I don't know yet. I always do really well with books. So I picked up this 1933 Modern Encyclopedia. It does have FDR right in the front. I don't think it's a huge dollar amount, but you pick up books for 50 cents. It's worth it. So let's see, anything else exciting I found. Pre-calculator time, the Atometer. It's got a little stylus, and then you would turn these numbers, and I guess you could do different addition. Yeah, you could do addition and subtraction. So a pretty simplified calculator. I'm not sure the exact year. I really haven't done any research on it. But once again, anything that I think is cool, I pick up. Hey, welcome in XX Vintage Dollars, Kimberly Lee Ann, Holly E. Payne. Appreciate y'all stopping by. I am Stuart with Franklin Hill Ventures, doing my normal Monday morning chat show. I really appreciate everybody taking a little bit of time out of their day to spend it with me. It helps me get my day off on the right foot. When you're a reseller and you're sitting in your basement all day, it can be a pretty lonely profession. So I love Whatnot for the social aspect. And a lot of times it's my background music as well. So even when I'm just down here working, I'll have Whatnot on in the background. Occasionally I'll buy something, but I love supporting other sellers. So speaking of Elvis, I also got this Elvis picture disc. Thought it was neat. I mean, it's not a high dollar item, but that'll look good in the booth. Everybody loves Elvis. Let's see. That's probably good enough. I mean, that gives you kind of a flavor. Oh, then I'm not a big VHS guy, but I did find this sealed Halloween VHS. Now, unfortunately, it's not one of the real high dollar ones. I did do a little bit of looking up, and I think this is probably a $15 to $20 tape, maybe a little more since it's sealed. And I think this is the original seal, not a reseal, because it does have the sticker on the outside that says first time on video cassette in its cinematic entirety. So anyway, thought that was pretty neat. Like I said, I don't do a lot of VHS stuff, but occasionally if I see ones I think are cool, I'll pick them up. So anyway, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about changes or, enhancements, changes, whatever you want to call them, that I would like to see Whatnot implement. And first, I want to make this clear. This is not any kind of bash Whatnot thing, because I love Whatnot. These are just some things. Some are ones I've submitted to them before as requests and so far haven't gone anywhere. Others are ones I just thought of over the weekend. But if anybody else has any ideas, please put them in the chat, because when I submit enhancement request, the more people who submit stuff, the more likely it is that they might implement it. So really just the first one is consistency between platforms. I know this is a huge deal for people who use Androids. It seems like everything gets implemented on the iPhone first, and I use an iPhone, so I get the benefit a lot of times of the new stuff that Whatnot pushes out. But where I'd like to see the consistency is more on the desktop browser platform, because when I run shows, I'll do my iPhone like I'm doing now for the camera, but I'll watch the chat, and either me or Amy will pin stuff, get the auction started on the desktop. And right now there's certain things that just work differently on the desktop. For a good examples, Whatnot just implemented a new feature, and if you're on iPhone, make sure you have the latest version of the app, and I think you'll see this. In addition, you can now see how many people liked your items. So that gives you, where that can be helpful, so if you're running a show, knowing what items you might want to bring up next if you don't have any requests or pre-bids, because it's always been a struggle, at least for us, to know when you're running items and you're not getting a lot of interaction in the chat, you don't have pre-bids, what do I run next? And this at least gives you a way to look and see, 4 people have liked this. And when people like your item, and I can't remember, trying to remember exactly what it's called and Whatnot. It's not called like, but watch or like. But anyway, it's when you go into somebody else's catalog and you can check. And what it'll do is it'll send you a notification when that item gets pinned. So that's one Whatnot tip if you're a new seller, is make sure when you're selling stuff, if you are entering stuff into your catalog before your show, make sure before when you start talking about an item, make sure you pin that the whole time you're talking about it, because that's going to send out notifications to anybody likes it, and potentially they could come to your show and bid on that item. So that's one thing that's where there's inconsistency between the iPhone and the desktop. You can't see that information on the desktop. I don't know if it's been implemented on Android or not yet, but I know, sometimes Android is like the redheaded stepchild of Whatnot. I hear, you see a lot of complaints, hear a lot of complaints from Android users on some of the Facebook groups and other places that everything gets implemented on the iPhone first. For me, that's fine, because that's what I use. So anyway, that would be my number one kind of enhancement request. I know that I'm a programmer, so I know there's challenges sometimes doing things on one platform versus another. It might be easier. Maybe it's impossible to do things on certain platforms. So I understand why maybe things are different on different platforms, but the more consistency they can bring, I think the better as you run your shows and not have to get used to things working differently in different places. So the next one, and this is one I'm not sure if it's technically possible, but it seems like it would be. So, you can have a co-host on Whatnot now, but you can't really dual sell. I mean, people do it, but if you want to dual sell with somebody, you have to send, you can only sell out of one person's catalog. So if the other person wants to sell, they have to send you pictures, whatever description they want, you have to add it to your catalog. And then when you sell it, you have to send them the shipping labels to pop on a package to ship out, which I know people do that. My question's always been, I've never done it, is if I'm co-hosting a show with somebody in California and I print the label here, with my 37923 zip code and I send it to California, does that create any issues when you drop that off at the post office? I don't know. I mean, it seems like it would, but it'd be nice if Whatnot would give the ability to allow two people to actually sell in the same show, like, jump back and forth between their stores. It seems like it would be technically possible, but, I don't know, but it would be nice to have something like that. Hey, welcome in B. Durham, Rick Creating, Old Things Considered, Black Cat. Appreciate y'all stopping by. Anybody else I missed? I'm Stuart with Franklin Hill Ventures. I do this show every Monday morning, and we just usually show some of the things I found at yard sales, estate sales, auctions, wherever I happen to go that weekend. Talk a little bit about Whatnot. Today we happen to be talking about things that I would like to see implemented on the Whatnot platform. If anybody else has any ideas, put those in the chat, please. Make sure I don't have anything on YouTube over here. And so number 1 or number 5 on the list, I guess, was consistency across platforms. Number 4 was ability to run dual shows. Number 3, and I think this is something they might have implemented overseas, like in England, but it's the ability to do local pickup. I've actually sold a couple of things to people in Knoxville who live right in my area of town. It'd be nice to be able to do a local pickup like you can do on some of the other platforms. And I know that's one I see asked about a lot in the Facebook groups. So maybe that will come to the USA at some point. I've heard rumors that they might be working on that. It's not a huge deal because most of the people I sell to are in other states, but occasionally you do sell that item to somebody in your area. And if you have the ability to do local pickup, it potentially saves your buyer some money, save you some money if you happen to do a free shipping show. So that would be number 3. Welcome in Dale Bear, Jen U88, Marianne's Treasures, Kelsey Lineberger. Thanks for stopping by. Talking about some of the things that I'd like to see Whatnot implement. If anybody else has any ideas or things they've been wishing Whatnot would implement, pop those in the chat. And let's see. So that would bring us to number 2. So this one actually, hey, good morning, Dale Bear. So this is one that it doesn't happen a lot, but let me know if it's ever happened to you. So you sell something via auction in a Whatnot show, the person's payment fails. So, the item doesn't get paid for, and you'll get notifications throughout the show pop up, so-and-so's payment failed. And, I'm always torn how much you call a person out for their payment failed. I'll usually say something about it once, but I don't harp on it. But typically it's just because, for whatever reason, well, I understand the reasons why. Credit card companies don't like a bunch of small purchases right in a row. You might have to, answer a text, and usually the payment will go ahead and process. But every once in a while, you have people who just, for whatever reason, their payment never goes through. Well, when your show ends, those items just go off into La La Land. They're no longer in your sold. They're no longer in your inactive. They just disappear. And I've talked to Whatnot about this, and they said, yeah, you just have to figure out which ones didn't get paid for, and then you have to manually relist them. So it would be really nice if, at the very least, they went to your inactive after the show so that you could reactivate them for the next show. But ideally, there'd be a whole separate tab when you finish your show and you have all your shipping stuff. When it says sold, and I think canceled is one where if somebody asks to cancel it, but there's nowhere you can see things that people didn't pay for. And if anybody else has figured out a way to be able to see these, let me know. But as far as I can tell, if somebody doesn't pay for an item, they're just gone, and you have to manually go back in. First of all, it's always a little worrisome. You finish packing everything up and you have like 3 things left over. So you're worried, did I forget to put something in somebody's box? Because there's nothing in the dashboard that tells you that those items were not paid for. So that would be something that seems like it would be relatively easy for Whatnot to do. So I'm hoping that maybe, they'll be able to do that at some point. And as I mentioned, anytime Whatnot sends out one of the surveys, I always, mention these certain changes that I'd like. Some of these are ones I've just thought of recently. I know the next one. So number one, and this is one that I've actually submitted to Whatnot multiple times, and I've been told that other people have as well. But this deals with pre-bids. I don't know if anybody else who does shows pre-bids, you have to literally just go through the catalog every time. So if you have 100 things in your store that particular show, you have to sit there and scroll through multiple times to look for pre-bids. Now, if you have a good mod, they can look for pre-bids for you, but regardless, somebody has to scroll through your catalog. It seems like it would be relatively easy where you see your store and you have active or auction, store, or buy it now, sold, giveaways, just have a tab that says pre-bids where it would automatically just list those pre-bid items on another tab. That would help tremendously with the flow of the show. And that's been my number one request for a long time. I've literally submitted that request probably 10 times to Whatnot, and so far it hasn't been implemented. But Whatnot does, and as I mentioned when I started this is not a bitch session about Whatnot, because I love Whatnot. These were just 5 things I came up with that if they could do them, I think it would make life easier for all of us sellers. And so hopefully at some point they will. Whatnot's really good about making changes all the time. And most are good. Every once in a while they'll make one that's not well received, and they've actually rolled back changes before when there's been enough uproar from the seller or buyer community. But some of the recent ones they've done, with showing the number of likes an item has, I think that's a really nice change just to help with knowing what to run during a show. Uh, I personally liked all the shipping changes they did, because with the type of stuff I sell, which is primarily ephemera, uh, it was, ended up being really good. Most people never pay more than $8.35 now. I can see where if you're a glassware seller, which I used to sell glassware on Whatnot, now I sell all my glassware on my other online marketplaces as well as at my antique booths. And I'm fortunate to have all these other outlets where I don't have to sell the glassware and other bigger items, breakable items on Whatnot. Occasionally I will if I get asked to be in a certain event. I certainly don't mind selling glassware or shipping glassware. I sell and package glassware all the time on other platforms, to the point, I mean, I have so much china. You've heard me say this before. My wife Amy calls me the China King of Knoxville because I sell so much china, but china flatware, collectibles, any kind of glassware. That's kind of I would say that's my specialty on my other online marketplaces. Anything that falls under that vintage and antique umbrella. So anyway, that's my 5 suggestions, I guess, for lack of a better term, for things for Whatnot. So for anybody just coming in, today's show, I just went over 5 enhancements, changes that I would like to see Whatnot put in. So just to summarize those, if you weren't here, it would be consistency between platforms. So things you can do on the iPhone, also be able to do them on the Android or on the desktop. I know I'm on the iPhone, so I get the benefit of almost all the changes, but I know people who use Android don't necessarily always get them, at least right away. And then certainly on the desktop, there's some things that would be nice to have. Then the ability to run dual shows where you can have a co-host, but both people can actually sell from a store or a catalog. And then the ability to do local pickup when you sell something to somebody in your area. A category for items not paid for. So if a payment fails during a show, you can see after the show what items that payment failed for. Because right now they just go to La La Land. Hey, Zimmel Jess, good morning. Thanks for stopping in. Darling Daisy Depot, Wallflower Finds, anybody else I've missed. And then my number one request that I've literally been requesting now for probably a year, probably almost as long as I've been on Whatnot, at least from the time that they put um, the ability to pre-bid in. It's a way to highlight your pre-bids, whether it's another tab. I think ideally there'd be another tab in the store that just says items with pre-bids or something So you can go in there without having to scroll through the store every 5 minutes to see if there's any new pre-bids, or rely on a mod to do that for you. So anyway, that's pretty much what I had for the show today. Let me go ahead and pin this giveaway. We do always try to end right at 9 o'clock or a little after. I mean, we've gone as late as 9:15 or 9:30 when we've had a lot of questions rolling in the show. Because a lot of times people will just, I never have all the answers, but I have been reselling a long time. If you look at our eBay store, it says we started in 1998. So actually, my reselling goes back even further than that. I had a sports card booth in the early 90s in Nashville. And then I'm now a full-time reseller as of September 2021. So I don't have all the answers, but I have been doing it long enough that, you know, I've learned a little bit along the way. So if you have any questions about reselling in general, feel free to ask those or Whatnot. I've been on Whatnot now since May of last year, so a little over a year, I guess. So this is going to be the giveaway today. I always try to give away something that's representative of the types of things that I sell in my shows. So since I do mostly ephemeral and Whatnot, I do a lot of cabinet cards, photographs, things of that nature. So, but I love this one. I don't know if this is a dad or a granddad. He looks old, but people back then just looked older. He's probably in his 30s or something, but he looks like he's 50s or 60s. So it could be a grandfather though, but has the two little girls. So let me go and get this started. So that is going. So if you're interested in getting this cabinet card, go ahead and enter. We'll just let it run till the end of the show. Then we'll find somebody to raid, and then hopefully everybody has a big day planned and we'll have a productive day, productive week. I have to, in addition to my reselling, I've started picking up some IT consulting jobs on the side for hospitals. That was what I did for a career. I worked in the clinical engineering world in hospitals, and I guess the easiest way to say what that is, it's the people who fix medical equipment. Now, I did not fix medical equipment. They did not want me getting anywhere near any of the medical equipment, but I did all the back end IT stuff. So I was the interface with the hospital IT group and the clinical engineering group. And I have a lot of experience developing software for those types of environments. So there's a couple of programs that are out there now that are based on a backend platform called ServiceNow, if anybody's ever heard of it. And I'm pretty good at programming in that. So I've started getting a whole lot of calls now from different hospitals to help out with implementation of different software packages. So it's hard to turn those down because, the money's pretty good, but my challenge is not to take on so much work that it gets me away from what I love, which is the reselling part. I've got to remember why I left that world to come to reselling. But on the other hand, it's nice to keep that part of my brain working as well. So, and this week's especially busy. I think I've got 3 different hospitals that I'm doing work for. One's actually the hospital that I used to work for in Chattanooga at Erlanger. I'm still got a lot of friends there and was always friends with the department head even before we both went to work there. So I do some work for them, and then a couple of other hospitals through a consulting firm that I work with. So anyway, it's going to be a busy week, and I've got a ton of stuff to list. I was very excited. I finally hit 1,000 listings on, I use List Perfectly to cross post to different platforms. And I finally hit 1,000 listings pretty much across the board on all my platforms. And it's hard to do just because you're constantly stair stepping. You list 4, you sell 6, and which is a good problem to have. But I'd always hovered around 800 listings. So I just told myself I'm going to make a concerted effort to get up to 1,000 listings, and finally did it. And now that I'm there, I'm going to try to stay there and slowly, creep up towards whatever the next number that I might hit is. So, anyway, that was kind of an exciting goal that I hit last week, that I've had that goal for a while. So just a reminder, here's the giveaway we're doing. So if you're interested in that, get in. I love, yeah. And as Dale Bear said, old pictures are awesome. I mean, the thing I like about ephemera, and we had Ephemerama this last weekend, and we were talking about this in some of the shows. The thing about ephemera that I love so much, I mean, that really no other category of selling has to the extent that ephemera does, is the stories that are involved with what you're selling. There's some that the stories tell themselves, they're handwritten letters, they're photographs. There's a story built into those, but really any old piece of paper has a story to tell. And even if you don't 100% know the story, it's easy to, I don't want to say make up a story, but, build a story around that item that, makes it more interesting. And, you know, it may or may not be 100% true, but just paper in general lends itself to storytelling, I think. So I don't know if anybody else agrees, disagrees, but that's my take on it and why I like selling ephemera so much. And I personally, you got about 30 seconds on the giveaway, by the way. I personally think Whatnot's done more to further the ephemera category, at least in the US than any other platform. Just the number of new people I see coming into ephemera and the number of people I hear say, I never knew what ephemera was. I never collected ephemera until I found Whatnot. And now I'm addicted to it. My house is full. And I'm kind of like that. I always did some paper stuff, but once I started watching Whatnot shows with ephemera, I mean, I was hooked. Okay, 1 second, and here goes the winner. And the winner is Zimmeljess. I guess you make the last comment, you win the giveaway. Congratulations. So that will be coming your way, and I'm glad it's going to a paper lover. So any last minute things before we find somebody to raid? And I appreciate just sticking with me till we do the raid. I always try to find a different person to raid on Monday morning. I know when I get raided, it's a very exciting thing. So we can send 9, 10, however many people we have in the show over to somebody. Hopefully, it'll make their Monday more happy. So I appreciate everybody stopping by. Please go to my website, which is franklinhillventures.com. Make sure you follow me on YouTube, on Instagram. You can also follow my Facebook page. It's pretty much, thanks for the purchase of the apple butter there as well. And thanks for the tip, Tina's Timeless Treasures. I really appreciate that. Um, if I don't know if you've tried any of the Franklin Hill Farms products yet, Zimmeljess, but the apple butter is really good. It's one of our most popular varieties. My favorite's the peach butter. We're out of a lot of stuff right now, but we should have a um, whole new shipment of product coming in this week, and we have some new ones we're trying. And Amy's doing a festival, so I know I said I was going to get off here, but one more thing. We have our fall festival in Clinton, which is a big antique festival, and it's really, really huge. So if you happen to be looking for something to do the first weekend in October and you want to take a road trip, come to Clinton, Tennessee. It's just north of Knoxville. It's the Clinch River Antique Festival. You can Google that and see some information about it. But they close down all the streets. They have food vendors. They usually have a beer garden. Most all the stores, and Clinton's got a historic downtown antique district. There's probably 10 to 15 antique stores all within walking distance, but they'll all be running sales. There'll be all the streets closed down with the outside vendors, but it's just a really, really huge deal. So if you've never been, it is a fun trip to make. Hopefully the weather will be good. But anyway, that same weekend, Amy's doing a festival. It's the Lucky Dog Holiday Market, and we'll be selling our Franklin Hill Farms products at that. We try to do 2 or 3 festivals a year, and we sell so many of the butters, pickles, jams, all those different things, salsas at those. And it's amazing the number of people because we always give our card out that call us, to get more. And then our challenge is just not to eat all our profits. Recently, we've been on our jalapeno honey mustard kick, and I think we're pretty sure we have some more of that coming in. But we don't make it. Just full disclosure, it's made for us up in Amish country. I can tell you, it's a lot better than if we made it. I mean, it's literally so hard just not to eat all our profits away. So anyway, appreciate the purchase. That's what got me off on that tangent. That will be shipping out today. Anything anybody purchases in the show today will ship out today. So you should have it middle of the week. So let me go find somebody to raid. We still have 6 people in here. Appreciate you sticking with me. Appreciate the tip. Appreciate all the hearts. We'll see you next Monday. I don't have a regular Whatnot show this week. I think our next show is a week from Friday. It'll be an ephemera show, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. So make sure you bookmark that show as well. So let me just look and see who we might can raid today. If anybody sees anybody they would like me to raid, just let me know and we can do that. I always look in the ephemera category first. Typically this early in the morning, there's really not anybody else running a show, but we'll check and just make sure. No, 10:30 is the first show, so we'll just go to the shop aisle in the antiques category. Let me refresh this real quick. All right, so we either have, I usually try to pick somebody that doesn't have as many. Let's go to the Snug Bungalow. I don't think I've rated them before. They have 14 viewers, so this will take them up over 20 once we rate them. So anyway, everybody have a great day and appreciate you stopping by, and we will see you in a week. All right, raid. I always have to talk this through. Amy makes fun of me because I always, every time I raid somebody, I like say everything I'm doing. So we got slash raid the Snug Bungalow. All right, here we go, everyone. We got 7 people in here. This is going to take them over 20. Everybody have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Zimmel Jess.